many simulated worlds like this, are there?
Thousands. But yours is the only one that ever created a simulation within the simulation.
It might turn out not to be possible to build a time machine and actually go back into the past. Physics might simply not permit that. There is a second way in which they could get the experience of living in the past. And that would be by creating a very detailed and realistic simulation of the past.
His body was laid to rest, but his soul,
that's impossible,
has come online.
An advanced civilization would have enough computing power that even if it devoted only a tiny fraction of 1% of that computing power for just 1 second in the course of its maybe 1,000 years long existence, that would be enough to create billions and billions of ancestor simulations.
It wasn't you. It was your user. He downloaded into you, manipulated you.
Puppet.
Do not be afraid.
Going backwards. Time travelers. They don't want to be found.
Then you are from the future.
About 1,000 years.
The images computers can create have improved hugely over the last 30 years. But many physicists believe eventually computers will be able to make virtual images which are so good they'd be indistinguishable from reality. They'd be exact copies of the real world, down to the last particle.
Who the hell are you guys?
We are the people who make sure things happen according to plan.
Virtual reality will rehabilitate your mind and eventually your body. What is your name?
In the last 5 or so years, I've been able to show that hidden inside of these equations, there are computer codes. They're the kind of computer codes that make browsers work.
I found the secret to immortality of the Chiron chip.
The future
is now.
And so if the equations that describe our reality have computer codes hidden in them, that's just kind of weird. And in fact, it's so weird that I like to tell people, let's go back to the Matrix movie. If there were physicists in the movie and they want to know they were inside the Matrix, how could they do that? Well, one way might be to try to detect computer codes in the equations that describe their world. But that's what I've just proposed.
If he can destroy our world, he figures we'll have to turn to him as the new messiah in cyberspace.
Jack into the new world order. Follow Joe.
The material world will fade away, and only cyberspace will remain.
That's what I never expected. We programmed this world so that no one in it could ever learn the truth, and you and Fuller did.
If this trend was to continue unabated, it would mean computers would get ever faster and ever more powerful. So much so that in the far future, a super civilization would have computers which make ours look puny.
These are pictures of equations. I've been, for the last 15 years, trying to answer the kinds of questions that my colleagues here have been raising. And what I've come to understand is that there are these incredible pictures that contain all the information of a set of equations that are related to string theory. And it's even more bizarre than that, because when you then try to understand these pictures, you find out that buried in them are computer codes, just like the type that you find in a browser when you go surf the web. And so I'm left with the puzzle of trying to figure out whether I live in the Matrix or not.
People realized that processing speed of computers was increasing exponentially. Every year, every few years, every 18 months, the processing speed would double.
It's okay, Julian. I understand. I have been watching you your whole life. I was watching when you were born. I was watching when you took your first step. I watched you on your first day of school. The episode when you lost your first tooth. You can't leave, Julian. You belong here.
If the computer of the future is churning out billions of simulations, how do we know we are living in the original real world, and not one of the billions of copies? In fact, the odds against us being real are billions to 1 against.
John, that's your dad's old ham radio. Let's go over to the den, huh? Plug it in.
And causing unexplained phenomenon.
W2QYV. This is Frank Sullivan.
Hello? What'd you say your name was?
Frank Sullivan.
Is this some kind of joke?
That will allow John Sullivan to talk to his father.
What do you say we tame this Bronco, huh? You and me. Spirit and guts.
Who's been dead for 30 years.
That, Frank says, that he's talking to Johnny on the radio in the future.
There would be a lot more simulated people like you than there would be original non-simulated ones. And then you gotta think, hang on, if almost everybody like me are simulated people, and just a tiny minority are non-simulated ones.
So, are you saying we're all just, there's some entity that programmed the universe, and we're just expressions of their code?
Well, I didn't say that. Some of those,
like the Matrix? That's what you said.
Some of those codes are showing on the screen behind you right now. They don't look like codes, but these pictures, which we call adinkras, are graphical representations of sets of equations that are based on codes. So this is, in fact, to answer your question more directly, I have in my life come to a very strange place because I never expected that the movie The Matrix might be an accurate representation of the place in which I live.